So this is our binomial distribution video where I'm going to explain to you how to utilize the binomial distribution calculator from StatTrak to answer questions about binomial distributions. I know in some of the assignments you've had in the lab or the knowledge path has taken you through the by hand calculation of this, and the by hand calculation can be very confusing because there's a lot of decimals, a lot of exponents, and things that are involved. So the great news is the problems that we're going to look at today can be done entirely within this calculator. So specifically for those of you with BAPATH and Math 112, questions 1 and 2 are done entirely with this calculator. So what's important to remember with the binomial distribution is the first criteria is there has to be only two options for an outcome, failure or success. So a great way to think about this would be a pass or fail class. That would be two options, pass, success, fail, failure. But a class with a letter grade, like A through F, would not be a binomial distribution because we have more than those two possible outcomes. The other thing is we have to have a fixed number of trials, and this goes into the calculations right here. So when we're talking about the probability of success of a trial, we have to think about what is the probability in the problem, and this is sometimes given to us and sometimes not given to us. So an example of when it might not be given to you would be flipping a coin. If I'm flipping a coin and I want to get heads, the probability is 1/2 or 0.5. If I wanted to get tails, the probability of success is 1/2 or 0.5. Now, this is a binomial distribution because there's heads or tails, and I want to get one or the other. Something like rolling a die would not work because there are 6 outcomes. So flipping a coin is a binomial. So what we have to do here is in each problem that you're given, you have to either find the probability for success or you have to come up with it yourself. So let's think about this. If I say that I'm a dog trainer, and my success rate with a new dog that's been with me all week for them to get the command sit is about 25%. So in the calculator, I would put in 0.25. And then I'm going to say I attempted the sit command 30 times. So that's my number of trials, 30 times. I want to know at that point, what is the probability that the dog succeeds, let's say, 10 times? So that would be the number of successes. Then we're going to click calculate. And then you're going to notice there's a lot of different designations here in these bottom boxes. If I want to know the probability that the dog will sit exactly 10 times, that is this box, equal to exactly 10. So I'm going to move this decimal over 2 points to get 9.1%. Now, when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking of what is the probability that the dog sits less than 10 times? So that would be 80.3%. And that should make sense because my success rate is only 25%. And 10 out of 30 is pretty big. This probability would be what is the probability the dog sits less than or equal to 10 times? This would be greater than 10 times. And this would be greater than or equal to. So when you're looking at the word problems, you need to first decide, is it exactly a certain number of trials? Is it greater than? Is it less than? That's going to help you pick which one to calculate. What I would like to see you do is enter a screenshot of this for me in your Word document. That way, if for some reason maybe you should have chosen less than or equal to, but you chose less than, I can give you a little more partial credit for that. So I would like to say I'm flipping a coin. I flip a coin 50 times. So then my probability, and so I flip a coin 50 times. Every flip we know would be an independent event, so it would qualify for a binomial. What is the probability of getting more than 30 heads? So I know the probability of getting exactly one head is 50%. So that's my probability. So it's not told to me in the problem, but I can figure it out. I have 50 trials, and I want to know the probability of getting more than 30 heads. So what we have to remember here is more than would not include 30. That would start at 31. So I'm looking at greater than, which is right here. And so then I'm going to take that figure and I'm going to convert that over to a percent. So pretty straightforward here, guys, with this calculator. You should not be doing the crazy formulas. Definitely include a screenshot of this. In number 3, it's just walking you through the definition of a binomial, which you guys should be able to do from the lecture video. Always make sure when you're addressing is something a binomial, you're always addressing there's 2 outcomes, success and failure. Why? There's only 2 outcomes. So give me a little bit about why. And then you need to make sure that you're stating their independent events. So we got to make sure when you're asked in the homework any of those questions, you got to make sure that you're giving me that clearness. And then the last one in number 5, that's going to involve some of the problems from later in the knowledge path. So when we're looking at the probability distribution, we're going to use the calculator to do that. For finding the mean, so when I'm looking at the mean there, that's going to be my n, would be, so the n value times the number of successes. So if I'm looking at, the number of successes. So if I'm looking at this question with the heads or tails, let's say that I have a 70% accuracy with getting heads, and I did 50 flips. I'm going to do 50 times I think it's 0.7. So that's going to be able to give me my mean. My standard deviation, I'm going to take that mean and I'm going to multiply it by my failure. So if I had 70% success, I had 30% failure. So I'm going to take that number, 50 times 0.7, and then I'm going to multiply that value by the 0.3, 1 minus it. So that's going to be your standard deviation. Then you're going to be able to go back into the probability calculator. Remember, more than doesn't include the value. If you were looking at scored 50 of the shots, that's exactly 50. So the main thing here for this assignment is making sure you're choosing the right one of this section. You guys can do this. It's very simple calculator punching. Give me the screenshot so that if for some reason something goes wrong, I can give you partial credit because you had the probability right, the number of trials right, maybe you just missed something. So this really should be an assignment that doesn't take a lot of time for those questions that are straightforward. The definition questions may take a little more time, but you're not crunching the numbers like in the knowledge path.